Hello everyone, it is November 1st, 2015, and you're looking at episode 16 of At Percussion. With us today are Megan Arns.
Hello.
Laurel Black.
Hi.
And Ben Charles.
Hi everybody.
So our guests today are the members of Transient Canvas. This is a marimba clarinet duo, and they are traveling all around the country right now, from coast to coast, and from Jordan Hall, NEC, down to places in New York, and they've been to West Virginia. They've been a lot of places. You guys have been to West Virginia, right?
I have. Not as the duo. We've been to Atlanta. We've been to Georgia.
Yeah.
See, I got it.
Same,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Same.
That's right. That's what I was thinking of. But premiered 40 new works for marimba and bass clarinet, and yeah, it's just fantastic to have Matt Sherrick and Amy Advocat with us. How are you guys doing?
We're great. You know, hanging out in Madison, Wisconsin right now.
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you.
And you are on the road from gig to gig right now, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little about the rep you're carrying with you right now?
We're bringing about 3 programs with us at the moment. So we're doing a tour out to the Midwest. We're starting off here in Madison, Wisconsin, doing a concert with the percussion quartet Clocks in Motion, who are pretty cool. And while we're here in town, we're actually premiering a piece by Filippo Santoro, who got his doctorate from UW-Madison, and at the same time also doing pieces by Matthew Welsh and Dan Lewis here. And Evan Zaporin's What She Saw There. Then after this concert, we're doing a more normal set of pieces that we commissioned. It's kind of a cross-section of our repertoire. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, how do you practice on the road? Do you kind of just wait till you're at the next gig and find a marimba, or are you bringing your marimba with you, Matt?
We have my 5-octave with us. Actually, we managed to fit the marimba, Amy's bass clarinet, her clarinet, and all of our luggage in a Prius, and drove from Boston to Madison.
Yeah.
So,
wow. All 1,200 miles, 1.5 days of driving.
Totally. And we're lucky too that behind us, you know,
yeah, there's a
marimba here at the house we're staying at. So that's also really, really helpful.
Cool.
That's amazing that a bass clarinet will fit in a Prius. That's impressive. That was very cool. Go Prius. I hear good
Sorry,
things.
how long have you guys been making music together?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
We're in our 5th year, basically.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
not.
And you've managed to commission like 40 works in that time, or 40 works have been written for you during that time?
We've actually 60 works have been written for us.
Yeah.
At that time.
Wow.
I was looking at
48 of them so far.
I was looking at their website, and like just the amount of repertoire, I was like, oh my god, it's so much rep. And like much of it written since 2010. I mean, like seriously, a lot of rep. It's pretty impressive.
So, what's the plan with all that? I know you're playing it all along. Are you recording it? Are you ultimately going to try to make CDs with it?
I'll tell you, there's some good YouTube videos.
Yeah.
There are. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen for sure.
We do love producing the YouTube videos, but right now we're also working on our first album project. And so we're recording 5 pieces.
5 pieces, yeah.
And we're going to produce a full CD. And then the goal is to continue to do either EPs or full CDs every year with all the
Yeah,
music.
cool. That would be quite a Kickstarter. You know, if you wanted to kickstart right with that many composers behind it and that many new works, I bet that would.
Yeah. We've actually just started our first Indiegogo campaign for the first album,
Yay.
Sift. That actually started, I think, 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
So
Give us money, please.
Yeah, cool. And you guys will come to JMU. We're really looking forward to seeing you when you do. Let's see. I think, what do we have? Megan, do you want to do your segment?
Sure. Let me pull it up here. My segment is interesting today and inspired by an experience I had over the weekend. I traveled with our drumline with the Marching Mizzou drumline to a show called in St. Louis. It was called Showdown, and I had never heard of this show before, but it apparently is an annual thing, and it's a showcase for HBCU drumlines, so historically black college and university drumlines. I had never seen an HBCU drumline live before. Have any of you seen one live before?
I don't think so.
Okay, neither had I, and I just, okay, who has seen Drumline the movie? Probably everyone.
Yeah.
So good, so good.
It's
like, for better or for
okay,
worse.
so
This
is kind of our reaction to it,
how
right?
Drumline is.
And that's, I think, most of our exposure to that style of drumming and that type of marching percussion. And I had no idea that there was like this whole world of it out there, and it is incredibly powerful live. And I was traveling with the drumline, supporting the drumline, but really I had no idea what I was in for. And it was in a gym, so that was another part of it. It wasn't outdoors, so it was very, very, very loud, but it was incredibly powerful. I mean, just the rhythms were infectious, and I mean, people in the audience loved it. It wasn't the type of setting where you're sitting in a concert hall and waiting, or listening to the music and then clapping afterwards. It was like people were dancing and screaming the whole time, and there's just so much energy in the room. We had so much fun. And it was interesting because all of these drumlines played in a similar style, and then we got up and played in a different style, and you could hear the similarities, but there were definitely differences. And we're more of a DCI, we're an SEC drumline, and there's just a different style to it. And I'll talk about a couple of the differences that I saw here in a second. But it was an incredible experience. I was completely blown away by it. And so I did a little bit of research into how many of these groups exist and how long this has been happening. So just for a little background information about historically black colleges and universities, they're institutes of higher ed in the U.S., and they were established before 1964 with the intention of serving the black community. The interesting thing is that they've always allowed admission to students of all races, but in recent years they have actually lost some of their black majorities due to that. There are 106 of these colleges and universities in the U.S., and they're a mix of public, private, community, four-year institutions, medical and law schools. Most of them were created in the aftermath of the Civil War and are located in the former slave states, but there are a few exceptions to that as well. And like I said before, we kind of know this style from Drumline, the movie, but I did a little bit of research into who are the hot groups in the real world, not in the movies.
You mean Drumline wasn't real?
I hate to break it to you, Casey, but
real quick, I just wanted to say, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that where I went to my undergrad was North Texas, and they have a big indoor drumline program. And that movie, they originally went to, I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, that they went to Paul Rennick and asked him if North Texas would do it, and he was like, that sounds like a terrible idea for a movie, and refused.
Oh no!
So what I'm saying is, I could have been in Drumline.
Okay.
I bet he saw the movie and was like, no,
I would have been way better than Nick Cannon. I just want to say, I would have been way better than Nick Cannon at that.
You could have been one-arm push-up guy.
So
Sorry,
to
Megan.
figure out, I didn't really know where to start looking for this besides Googling things, and I started with our local drumline. So, I'm here in Columbia, Missouri, and just 20 miles south of here is our state capital, Jefferson City, and there's an HBCU in Jefferson City called Lincoln University, and they were actually the featured drumline of the show we were at, along with us, and we were kind of had a battle with them, and we did a joint performance with them. And they're called the Groove Dynasty, Lincoln University Groove Dynasty. So I started looking just at their band, and it turns out that they're one of the best in the nation. And the best of these in the nation participate in a competition called the Honda Battle of the Bands. I guess it's just Honda Battle of the Bands. And it's a huge competition, and then the top 8 are invited to the Invitational Showcase. And this is widely known within the marching band community as the Honda. And it's kind of the culmination, this invitational is the culmination of this whole contest. And it's cool because it provides a national stage to highlight the distinct showmanship of these HBCU marching bands. So some of the eight ones from last year were Alabama A&M University, Alabama State University, Bethune-Cookman University, Morehouse College, North Carolina A&T University. They were the winner last year. South Carolina State University, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Winston-Salem University, and I think that was 8. So those were kind of the top 8 from last year. And we'll overlay some video in this, but it's really unreal. I mean, the energy and the performance that goes in with this is really cool. There's also a battle of the Drumlines that I found that we'll overlay here a little bit too. That's kind of cool. I don't think it's related to the invitational showcase, but some of the differences that I noticed from the DCI drumline or some of these SEC or Big Ten universities is that they use a tenor drum. So instead of using the quad drums, I mean, you guys are familiar with the basic battery, right? You've got bass drums that are in order of pitches and that are pitched differently and placed in order. You've got the snare line, you've got a quad line or a tenor line, and then cymbals sometimes. So instead of having the quad drums or the tenor drums as a set, they're just single toms by themselves with double. They're double-headed, and the ones that Lincoln were playing were strapped on them like bass drums, so they're still playing like this. And they stood just like a bass line. It was just like there were 2 bass lines, a low bass line and a high bass line. And these things added such a depth of sound to it. And it was cool because instead of having the bass line that really ranged up super high, you had all of these low bass drums. So that provided really like a low groove factor. And I guess when I did a little bit of research, this tenor drum is really popular in most HBCU drum lines. And let's see. Yeah, that's basically it. The other difference one of the other differences I noticed in the instruments was that the basses, instead of using these highly developed harnesses that we've been using, they're just straps. And they allow them to do these crazy visuals where they throw the bass drum over from one side to another. That seemed to be like a really common visual for the basses. So we're kind of just up here the whole time playing. The bass drummers are like throwing them around and doing these cool spinning visuals. And I was talking to one of the bass drummers on the way out, and I was like, "Those straps are so cool." He's like, "Yeah, but we want the harnesses. These things hurt." So they were definitely, but you can't swing them around if you didn't have them just on straps.
Have you seen how like Iron Maiden will throw their electric guitar around their
It's like kind of like that, honestly. It's really cool. And the cymbal players are doing all these crazy spinny visuals, and we're more of upright and strict motions, and there's a groove to it too in the DCI style or SEC or college drumline style, but there is still uniformity in these HBCU lines, but there's definitely more groove, there's more dance, and I was even seeing a lot of connections to some West African drumming. I was hearing a lot of similar timelines and beats in there, as well as some moves taken from that dancing as well. It was really cool to see those similarities. So also at this show that I went to this weekend, there were some local groups that performed that were made up of, that were like community groups basically. And one of them was called the Pulse of Peoria. And they had driven, I guess, maybe about 2 hours from Peoria, Illinois. And their program is called, Pulse of Peoria is the drumline, but their program is called Pushing Inner City Kids, or PIC. And it's, an after-school program, and these kids are drumming all the time, and they were good. They were super good. So there were several groups that exist in this area, and I assume they exist in other areas too, but I thought that was such a cool thing because we have, I just can't really think of any. I can think of community drumming groups, but I can't think of any community drum line groups. I can think of drumline groups that are used for sports teams now. We've talked about this on here before, but that's becoming a big thing. But just, programs that are not associated with schools, that are keeping kids off the street, teaching them teamwork, teaching them musical skills, and keeping them busy. So I thought that was really cool in an interesting way. And this Pulse of Peoria group, they're cadences, they were playing things from Lincoln University Drumline. And when I talked to the director afterwards, he was telling me, oh yeah, it's like almost a feeder program from this Pulse of Peoria. They want to go to Lincoln University and be in this nationally competitive drumline, you know? So that's like a goal of theirs, is to get into this college and, you know, and be there.
Do they also get scholarships for being on the drumline?
I'm not sure specifically, but I was noticing on the Honda website through this Honda competition that they offer a lot of grants and scholarships for kids to be in band. So, yeah, I don't know. Pete Zambito is the director of the Lincoln University Drumline. So I'm going to try to interview him. Maybe we can get him on here at some point too, but I'm going to try to get him to write a rhythm scene article, because I didn't know much about the tradition and culture of these types of lines, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that is cool. We actually, Casey and I know Pete, and yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, from West Virginia. And
of course. Right.
Yeah, I had no idea that that's what he did. Yeah.
That's what he's doing now. Yeah, because his wife is teaching here in Columbia, and so I think he got that job shortly after. So he's the percussion instructor down there. Yeah.
He was like two before me at Concord.
Yes, that's right. Oh,
hey,
we should have him on.
Yeah, we totally could. Yeah, that'd be great to have Pete on. Yeah, Pete's a blast. Hey, Matt Sherrick, do you have marching band experience? Do you have drumline experience? I know I feel like you've told me you've taught some before. Is that right?
Just in high school I played in the drumline, and then I was a music ed major for undergrad, so during my undergrad I would coach high school drumlines, but I don't have a lot of experience in any sort of competition drumline of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're missing out on, Shako goodness.
I was a drum major for 3 years, though, so does that count?
Oh my gosh!
And you
guys, look at this right here.
No!
Representing the FAU marching band, which I'm working with this year.
Very good. No more penguin suits.
No more penguin suits.
Well, Matt, you do quite a bit of conducting as well, right?
Yeah. I'm starting to do more now, mostly contemporary music, but yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the EQ Ensemble?
Yeah, actually, it's an ensemble in Boston who specializes in the music of New England-based composers. And this year is the first year we actually have a fully formed, seated, symphonetta-sized ensemble. In fact, we gave our first concert back in October. We premiered
all the way back in November.
I'm so
all the way back today.
We premiered a piece by Peter Van Zandt Lane, which was pretty cool. So I do that, and Amy plays in that occasionally, and yeah, it's a good time. Mostly it's founded by Boston Conservatory composer alums, actually. So.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Laurel, what do you have for us today?
So my topic today has a lot to do with being a healthy person. So I have a question for you guys. Has anyone ever had trouble sleeping? Like insomnia type stuff? Anybody?
Yes.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Yep, everybody.
But
yeah. Matt, what about you?
I stay up so late that I pass out. No, definitely I've had those times where I can't sleep.
Yeah.
And me, are you a good sleeper?
Pretty good, but yeah, it does happen still.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're pretty talented.
I like to pass out.
Yeah. Well, we, all of us, are some of the 50 to 70 million American adults that are estimated to have some type of insomnia at some point, no matter how mild or severe it might be. So what I want to talk about today comes from 2 articles that appeared in Mindful magazine, which I have a subscription to, and is like the most wonderful magazine to get in the mail. Yeah, it's great. It's fabulous. So 2 articles, one called Confessions of a Recovering Insomniac, and then the other one is called Am I Doing This Right?, which is about meditation. And these articles appeared back to back in the magazine, and it was really interesting because I was reading all about this woman and how she couldn't sleep, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was me. That is me sometimes. And then, you turn the page and it's all about, here are common questions about meditation and how it can help. And she had just gotten done talking about how there are different forms of, therapy, if you will, but really just strategies to try to get to sleep. And meditation is one of them. So the author of the Insomniac article is named Barbara Graham, and she's a writer and has now dealt with insomnia for like over 30 years, and realized that it had to do very much with when there were looming deadlines or you know, some type of big event coming up that was really stressing her out, and then it's hard to fall asleep, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking about it, and then you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about it some more, and it's just this really terrible, awful cycle. But what's interesting is, of course, the different things that happen to us from sleep deprivation always make us feel worse. They make us feel more stressed out, and sleep deprivation hits the part of the brain that has to do with how our emotions process. So we're put into this like high anxiety alert phase when really we're just sleep deprived. But of course the effects of something like that always play out in our relationships and how we perform in our professional lives. All of that. And I got to thinking about, you know, when I was in school and then out of school, and there was a time when Matt and I were roommates, and there were many times when it was like, I can't sleep either. Well, there's a pizza place like right down the block, so we should just get a pizza and we'll just stay up till 2 o'clock watching Star Trek with our roommates.
Big time. Oh, yeah.
And that was life for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, but it was also very tired all the time as a result. And it got me thinking about how, like, in school, at least, you know, in undergrad and grad school, I would say, there was this kind of environment of, like, if you have time to sleep, you're not doing enough. I don't know if that, like, rings true with any of you guys. Megan, you're nodding. Does that, like, yeah, right? Like, there was this mindset of, well, you're not practicing enough if you have time to sleep, or, you know, you're not working hard enough at some particular thing, and it's like cool to say you stayed up all night for some reason.
Have you guys ever had students brag about that too? Like, oh yeah, I only slept 2 hours last night because I practiced. And it's like, okay, well maybe that's why you're playing poorly in your lesson today.
Right. Yeah, that might not have worked out the way you wanted it to. Yeah, but I remember so clearly thinking that way, that it was like cool to stay at the music building till 2 a.m. In undergrad, I could do that and not get kicked out, but, you know, and then you're so tired and you just wonder if it's worth it because you don't practice well. But that kind of story that we tell ourselves is totally in line with something that Barbara talks about in the article, and that is totally relevant to something called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is an actual like strategy that people use and will seek out, you know, psychologists for. But it essentially says that oftentimes our insomnia is caused by the stories we tell ourselves about our lives. Whether it's, if you have time to sleep, you're not practicing enough. That's a story. Or you didn't pull an all-nighter, therefore you haven't had a real college experience. You know, something like that, which sounds incredibly silly now, but I remember thinking at the time that that was totally appropriate. Like, yeah, I stayed up till 5 writing a paper, and it was awful. But
yeah.
I did it,
and
you know.
I think, well, like, some people, like, you're talking about, like, the college experience, how that has to happen. And, like, I guarantee at some point, eventually it'll catch up to everyone, and you do need to stay up, you know, extra late and work on a paper, or extra late and learn notes or something like that. And it's fine as an every once in a while thing, but when it becomes habitual and multiple nights in a row that you're not sleeping, then it, like, any benefit that could possibly be had from it is just immediately lost, I think.
I have, you know, the freshmen and I got together in our little freshman techniques class that we do here, and you know, they're voicing like getting used to university life, and they're really busy, and they're all in marching band, and it's like, you know, they have a heavy load, and of course it's new to them, so it's a challenge. But one of the most productive one of them is one that says he manages to sleep 8 hours a night. He gets all his work done. He gets his classwork done, and he also like manages to play video games when he wants to. And it's just interesting. It's like, yeah, how is that? And he sleeps plenty, you know.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to hear that. And I think it is you have to learn how to manage your time so that you are able to sleep. And like Ben said, sometimes you have to do that because there's literally not enough time in the day otherwise to get everything done. But I think there are, of course, serious health effects to not sleeping enough, and she lists them. And what does she say? Those who get too little sleep are at risk for increased mortality, as well as chronic diseases such as cancer, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, obesity, and depression. It's like, well, man, Jesus, I'm going to bed now then.
Yeah.
You know, but it's yeah, so on the one hand it's like, yeah, you really should get sleep, you know, but there's also like, yeah, it's really important to sleep. It's really important. But sometimes knowing that doesn't actually help, because you lay there awake and you say, I have to get to sleep, I have to get to sleep because I have so much to do tomorrow, and we end up talking ourselves into this frenzy to where it's almost impossible. But later on in the article, they refer to psychologist Jason Ong, who is at the Rush University Medical Center, and he agrees, saying that, you know, insomnia is a disorder of cognitive and physiological hyperarousal, which mindfulness addresses, but CBTI doesn't deal with directly. So he's of the thought that mindfulness-based therapy for insomnia is actually a much better way to try to heal this, certainly better than medications. And that was something that was kind of another part of the article about, you know, different kinds of sleeping pills are actually linked to dementia. So if you're a person that takes lots of sleeping pills, like, please research that a little bit, because it can have, yeah, kind of disastrous effects later on. But one of my favorite things that Barbara wrote was that she taught herself, you know, using meditation to just let go into sleep. And I think that that's a very peaceful way of thinking about it that takes away the stress, if you will, of trying to get to sleep. And just a few little tips about meditation and being mindful. If you've never tried it before, I love it, hence my subscription to the magazine. But it's essentially, meditation is just about, I don't know, quieting your mind and realizing things around you and within. And no matter what you do, whether you want to sit on a pillow and meditate or you just want to walk and think, that's meditation also. There aren't really rules, but no matter what you do, there's always some type of anchor that isn't your thoughts. So, you know, as thoughts come in, we can notice them, and then you just let them go. And of course, when we get anxious trying to go to sleep, a thought comes in, like, if you don't get to sleep, you're going to be so tired tomorrow. You're not going to get anything done. And it ruminates, and it just spins and spins and spins like you're in a wheel. But you can also just notice that you have that and then let it go. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You can aim for something small at first, maybe just sitting for 3 minutes or something in your car at the end of the workday and just be quiet, and then go about your day. That can really be helpful. Know that you might fall asleep, and that's good, especially if you're trying to fall asleep. It's not bad to fall asleep if you're trying to just meditate or be quiet about something. You might actually just be that tired, and your body's just telling you that you're tired. And then lastly, and I feel like this is actually the most important thing about a kind of perspective about meditation, is that in our culture of distraction and busyness, meditation might seem like the most boring thing on the planet. because you're just to sit. And that's true. It could seem really boring because you're not doing anything with your hands and you're not receiving any type of external stimuli, but you are spending time with yourself.
How do you choose your composers for some of these commissioning projects? I know there's a lot of young composers that would just love to know what they have to do to get a group like you guys to play their music.
I mean, so far we're just very connected to a lot of great composers in the area where we live in Boston, and the more we've traveled and performed elsewhere, we've networked with other people. And basically, if people send us music and we really enjoy their music, we're going to be willing to work with them. And we're looking for a wide kind of spectrum and variety of different kinds of music. So we don't hold to any specific aesthetic, and we really truly believe that a composer who has their own style and their own voice, that we just want to do what they love the most, and that usually works the best.
If a composer is open and approachable and friendly, that's also quite helpful. Yeah. I mean, as we've moved out of just working with people we already know, as we travel around more, usually it's a situation where either we'll play a concert and people will come up to us and they'll go, "Hey, can we write you a piece?" And we'll go, "Cool, send us your SoundCloud," and we'll listen to it. Or we'll walk up to them and be like, "Can you write us a piece?" And then, so that's how that normally works out.
And do they say the same thing? Like, "Cool, send me your SoundCloud. Let me see what you guys got."
Usually, yeah. But I mean, it's a little bit different because then they have just heard us play, perhaps.
Oh, sure. So they're already, and they're all, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. And I think also just being... I lost my train of thought.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you guys are after the music specifically, not the. And not to say you don't have big names that have written anything, but it's not like you're. I feel like sometimes people who don't have a project going, they just go for like, I'm gonna get a really big name composer to write me something, and that'll be the first piece I've ever had commissioned, and I'll do it for this duo, and that'll be that, and then I'll have my name attached to them. But it sounds like you guys are, I don't know, it sounds like you're doing the more important groundwork first, or you care more just about the music.
Yeah, I mean, it never really occurred to us to search out a big name. We don't commission the pieces so that we become more well known. We actually just want to provide people writing music right now with a vehicle for their music to be heard. And there are lots of wonderful composers who are just too shy to ask. Mm-hmm. More established groups to play their stuff. There are, and on the other hand, there are groups who are afraid to ask composers. So I'd also say to younger ensembles, they should not be afraid to go up and talk to someone and ask, "Hey, do you want to collaborate on a piece?"
Yeah, we're really promoting emerging composers. We really enjoy having such a wide variety of music from people who are in our generation working now, who people might not know about, that they should know about, and so we really enjoy that aspect of it.
It's also interesting to us with some of the even older composers we've worked with, people like Marty Epstein or Andy Voris, who are they're well established in their careers, they have full-time jobs at conservatories. The fact that we offer a minimum of 3 performances of a piece we premiere it's amazing how much that's important to them and how shocked they are that we would offer that. Oftentimes, groups will say, "We'll play this piece," and it happens once, and there's no recording. So that's another thing I think when an ensemble wants to work with a composer, but they don't necessarily have the funds to commission them properly, even just offering a barter system of multiple performances, high-quality recording, stuff like that, in the end, that is also worth its own amount of money.
There's Bill Murch always told us, like, he said something along the lines of, like, you'd be surprised how many great pieces can be had for a premiere and a bottle of wine, or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is that typically, I mean, if you were to offer advice to groups that are just starting out for approaching composers, like what is your kind of standard package contract that you offer? Is that it? Is it usually 3 performances and a recording, or is it differ based on the composer and the situation?
It depends. What we offer is, like you said, a minimum of 3 performances, a high-quality YouTube video.
Okay.
Scott Quaid, who is one of the videographers for Victor, is a friend of ours, and Scott makes all of our videos.
Oh, great.
Additionally, we waive any performer fee if the composer chooses to have the piece recorded later on. We waive any of our own performance fees for that. We would do that for free. And we offer to collaborate on any grant they want. And I think that's actually quite, when I've been told, that's actually quite a nice package for most composers. And to be frank, to go back to your original, the point you made, Casey, about feeling like you have to jump on, people should absolutely be part of commissioning consortiums with larger named composers. That's great. But there's also, like, the interesting thing of working with lots of new people who maybe have never written for marimba before is that they don't have a marimba style or a marimba shtick that they do. I mean, I'm part of a commissioning project for Alejandro Vignao for a new percussion trio he just wrote, and it's awesome. But it's very much like Estudios de Fronteras or Book of Grooves, or, you know, it's the same thing, whereas if you constantly work with new people, they're just going to stretch the instrument in new ways. You know? That's
great. And how did you decide to limit your instrument to mostly just marimba? Was that the idea from the start, or have other people asked you to write for other things, or do you usually try to keep it?
Same question for Amy, because Amy mostly plays bass clarinet.
Who do you want to go first?
You should go first.
Like Laurel, I have a master's degree in marimba, so I specifically wanted people to just write for 5-octave marimba so that the instrument can grow. Just like how I really feel like Nancy Zaltzman and Bob Van Cise did that really well with their violin marimba duo and flute marimba duo. Because of that chamber music, the instrument just writing for it became more complex and more interesting. I used to be into the idea of an extended marimba, so marimba plus multi-percussion setup.
Yeah.
In the end, those pieces weren't as strong. It was normally like a really cool marimba part and then a suspended cymbal for no reason, for example. And so, from my point of view, when you limit a composer's options in terms of instruments, they are way more creative in terms of what they do with their material.
Yeah. Limits can be liberating, is how we feel. And
interesting.
So he has the marimba thing going, and then for me, of course I can play any instrument in the clarinet family, and we've tried that. We realized that the timbres of bass clarinet and marimba just really blend the best, and there's just something about it. It's the same range, and the overtone system seems to get along very well. And so, you know, we just like that the best. So.
It also helps that Amy's a ridiculously good bass clarinet player. They're very
Go on, no stop.
And also, I think bass clarinet, for us, when composers write for extended techniques for bass clarinet, they're just way more audible than on a B-flat clarinet.
I really do love the bass clarinet a lot more, too, but yeah, there's just something spectacular.
Yeah, I know a lot of the, I couldn't tell you the name of it, but a lot of the the videos I've seen of you guys, there's a lot of like tongue slaps or whatever it's called. Yeah, and those they really do like kind of replicate. It sounds a lot like a dead stroke on the marimba, and so there's a lot of kind of interplay between the two instruments and sounding very very similar.
Yeah, and like the air sound in the bass clarinet goes really well with the bowed marimba, and just this kind of stuff is much more accentuated with this particular instrumentation.
Yeah.
How often do you find you go back and forth with composers regarding either extended techniques on the bass clarinet or Matt, just like primary concerns they have about marimba writing?
It depends on the composer. Yeah. We like workshopping when we can. So if a composer lives far away from us, we like it when they send us ideas of what they've been working on, and we record and can send them back samples.
And also for me as well, if a composer asks me something and I'm practicing, I just put my phone on voice recorder and just do it and send it to them. So it's pretty easy to experiment. Yeah.
But It really just depends on what the composer's process is like. Some people don't like sending anything until they're done, and then once that happens, we can edit. Most of what I edit, the marimba parts, tend to be just the actual notation. I'm pretty picky with.
We both are.
We're both picky.
Yeah.
You know, with how people notate rhythms, and in my case, how people use a grand staff or notation of tremolos. One of the best things we've done, actually, though, this last summer we were in residence at Avaloch Farm Music Institute, which is awesome. It's kind of like it's an artist residency for performers, and we were housed for 2 weeks with 2 composers, and while we were there, they composed a piece for us, and that was the most satisfying, I think, collaborations we've done.
Yeah, we got to experiment. I mean, I know David Ibbett, one of the composers, and I sat down and did a lot of experimenting with my instrument, and he actually, in a way, taught me things that I didn't know I could do. And so we came up with a whole unique set of sounds for his piece.
Yeah,
cool.
It's pretty awesome. It's called Branches. It's an electroacoustic piece, and it's based on electronic dance music.
Huh.
The entire backing track is made from marimba or bass clarinet sounds.
Yeah,
and
it's
also
very percussive sounds even for me, with the tongue slaps and the key clicks as a drum set. And
because of him, we found out that you can just go crazy hitting your resonators, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Apparently in Marimba 1, the resonators, like if you hit them at the bottom, they chime out basically a B minor 7 chord. We're pretty
Wow.
pretty and I can attest that the paint holds up really well to being smacked a bunch.
Well, those would be the resonators to do it with. I mean, those are the gnarly resonators of marimba, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
As Casey says, with a giant Malatech marimba with brass resonators sitting behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, I'm so happy to hear that you help composers with notation, because I'm learning a piece right now to play with the euphonium player. It's written in the 70s, and it has never undergone any kind of help in the notation department. Huh?
Who wrote that piece? Alec Wilder?
No, Samuel Adler.
Oh, yeah.
And, bless him.
That guy.
But it's just like, why, like every measure he changes how he was doing it. And Casey heard me yesterday, just like, I'm going to strangle the cat because this is terrible.
We always try to tell composers, like, be careful basing how you notate on older pieces. We have a piece premiering this week, which is a wonderful piece, but the composer just stared at Donatoni's music for months, and it's all written like that. And we've had to basically completely rewrite the piece because, and you know who've played Omar or Mari, I mean, it takes months just to figure out what the music says.
What is the rhythm? What is the notes? So, yeah, can see them.
So it's like you have to, without insulting people, explain what you can write something as complex as you want, but you need to notate it in a way that is as readable as possible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's something we're not afraid to do that I think some performers are. They just take the music and say, okay, well, I better learn this, and they don't think to question it. And we work with so many composers now, and we've become pretty picky, and we're happy to share that with them what we've learned from all these commissioning projects, and hopefully it sticks.
That only really happened because we've actually premiered so many pieces. At first, when I was out of school, when you're used to learning, major rep pieces, like See a Thursday or Safa or something, we're just like, okay, well, I'm going to learn this because it's hard and I'm going to do it. But after 30 pieces, you just kind of lose patience for people who want to write music that just looks like whatever they feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear that, Xenakis? You hear that, Xenakis?
Hey.
Oh, yeah. He hears us.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's interesting though, because I wonder how many people might look at that way of doing things and say, no, you should just play a couple of pieces really well, and like that's your stamp, and that's how you stand out, and you don't do. I mean, I don't know. I'm not offering an opinion of my own, but I wonder if some people kind of think that, because I've known people, like I see them 5 years later and they're still playing.
Yeah, well,
what I saw them play 5 years ago.
Actually, let me just turn what Casey's saying into a question for Amy and Matt. Do you have like a few core pieces that you perform on a whole lot of concerts, and then you kind of rotate out, or you're obviously premiering a lot of new works, or is pretty much every concert you do all new?
Oh yeah, we don't always do premieres in every single piece.
Are there like a couple though that you would say are like staples in your repertoire that you do a lot?
Yeah, we've developed our favorites. We've got pieces that we know lie well on our that we can put together quickly if we have a last-minute gig. We know that we can build sets of pieces that agree with each other and are a good program. And as you get all these pieces, and we've been doing this for 5 years now, the pieces from 4 years ago feel really learned and old. So we can toggle different programs from all.
Because that's like what I find. Like as far as like doing a recital, if you ask me to do a recital like soon, I would obviously pull from things that I already know because I know them. But at the same rate, it's boring to keep to play the same piece. So I think it is nice to have like maybe a third of your program as like your core repertoire at least. Then the other half to 2/3 you can kind of rotate out pieces.
That depends also on where we do the concerts.
Right.
Our concerts in Boston tend to be mostly premieres because that tends to be our venue where we get to premiere the pieces.
And that's where we also do the recordings.
And also, I mean, our audience at home, they only want to hear us do our standard pieces so many times a year.
Yeah.
As we travel, we have 2 programs that are basically set repertoire, and then 1 program that is completely just malleable. Because also, I mean, there are pieces that we like, but there are pieces that for both of us, we don't want pieces to get stale. So who knows if 5 years from now our core pieces will be the same as they are now. Mm-hmm. We may, we try to make sure that when we've played a piece too many times and we start to feel, bored or stale, we put it away for a year, and then we might look at it again later. But that's just our personalities.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You mentioned the venues. I noticed on your bio I'm intrigued by the original Gravity concert series, which pairs local composers with local beers at a brewing company. Are you guys often playing in universities? Are you playing in bars? Are you playing in coffee shops? Where are your typical venues?
Everywhere.
When we do concerts we've only been traveling for the past 2 years. When we give concerts in Boston, they tend to be in either black box theaters or alternative venues. When we travel, we tend to do a combination of a university will usually pay us, so we'll play there and do some classes. And while we travel to the university, we will try to find another venue either in the town or nearby.
Yeah, like a local concert series might pick us up, or we're playing at the Bop Stop in Cleveland, which is like an old jazz club that's been refreshed into like a contemporary music / jazz venue.
Yeah. And we're doing that because we're doing a concert and masterclass at Baldwin Wallace University, which is in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Got it.
But I think the whole idea, one reason actually that I have limited our instrumentation to marimba is that, strangely enough, marimba is fairly portable.
Yeah.
More portable than piano. Right? Really good at taking a marimba apart.
I have learned.
Yeah, no, I veto that comment. I'm gonna edit that out. Sorry, nope.
I will say, despite its cumbersomeness, if you limit to marimba, at least you're not taking marimba and vibraphone and timpani, etc.
Exactly.
When we did a concert with Chamber Cartel last year in Atlanta, Caleb Heron, who's a wonderful guy. He's a great percussionist, but he insisted, like, why do you use a 5-octave marimba? That's just so much to schlep. So when we shared this concert, Amy and I took my marimba, and he took his, percussion setups, a couple pieces of different multiple percussion setups. Amy and I were unloaded and set up in 15 minutes. It took him an hour. So I kind of feel like, it just depends on what you're used to moving.
Well, he's probably thinking that from the perspective of it takes me an hour to move all this percussion stuff, and if I had a marimba in here, man, I'd be bringing the smallest marimba I can.
Oh, totally.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. That's actually why I don't let people. That's another reason I don't let people write for percussion for us anymore. Is because if I brought a marimba, I'm really not bringing anything else.
Yeah. Hey, Matt. I remember you saying it was probably a long time ago now, but was there a time you were interested in finding a low A marimba for smaller gigs or gigs that you just need like the upper register or something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, big time. My percussion quartet, Boston Percussion Group, all of us own a 5-octave marimba 1. and none of us own a low A, and that gets really annoying sometimes. Because you just don't want to move a 5-octave, you know. But I mean, it's important, I think, to have access to a smaller instrument sometimes. But all of our repertoire is for a 5-octave, so it doesn't really work, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hey, Ben, what do you have for us today?
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to start with, even though it's Megan's territory, I'm going to steal Megan's territory. There are a couple of pieces of news I wanted to talk about, both very sad, actually, to me. So I'm sorry to anyone that only likes good news. But the first of which is several weeks ago, maybe about a month ago even, when we talked with Maria Finkelmeyer, we talked about the Kroumata percussion group, which sadly, as of a week or two ago, has disbanded after very many years of successful concerts and premiering new pieces and great works. So just wanted to say congratulations and thank you to Kroumata for all their contributions throughout the years. And then secondly, after that is, most people probably know this one, Jacques Delecluse passed away this past week. And there was, I think, Rob Knopper, who had worked with Delecluse and interviewed him, wrote a very nice kind of tribute to him on his website, so be sure to check that out. But anyway, the sad news being out of the way, I wanted to talk about something positive. And that is, since we have a marimba clarinet duo on the show, and last week we were talking to Gordon Stout, and he mentioned chamber music, and I brought this piece up. I thought I'd actually talk about it for once. So we're going to talk today about Kevin Putz and Legions Will Rise, which is maybe my favorite piece of music I've ever played. I feel that strongly about it. I mean, definitely one of like the top 3, if not even my favorite ever. So this is a work for marimba, clarinet, and violin. So not strictly marimba and clarinet. Sorry, Matt and Amy. But it was composed in the summer of 2001 and revised in March of 2009. And I point out that revision because there are a lot of times when he's switched like the marimba part and the violin part or something like that. And if you hear a recording and you're trying to follow the score, it's confusing because the instruments are wrong. So it was revised. So if you hear an older recording, it could be potentially different.
That was a problem for me once, actually, because I was hired to play it after I'd already played it, and I brought my old score, but the clarinetist and the violinist had the new version.
Oh, no.
Very confusing couple of rehearsals.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a recording of Eric Beach from Soul Percussion playing it, I think, when he was a student at Yale. It's like one of those Vic Firth recordings. And, yeah, I had listened to it, but I had never followed it with the score. Then when I played this piece, I tossed that recording to someone, and they were like, this isn't what I have written. So there you have it. Watch out for that. So it was commissioned by the Kobe Shinbun, which is a newspaper in Japan, for Makoto Nakura, who Kevin Putz wrote an earlier work called Canyon for Makoto Nakura, which I know Casey has played and is very familiar with. But anyway, so Kevin Putz wrote that this work is about the indomitable power of the human spirit to transcend in times of crisis. It was premiered October 2001 at Matsukata Hall in Kobe, Japan by Makoto Nakura, Yayoi Toda, who's a violinist, and Todd Palmer on clarinet. I always describe this piece as it sounds like Aaron Copland and Steve Reich got together and hung out with each other for a little while, because it has that very Copland American kind of open fifths sound to it, but it has a lot of Steve Reich type of delay effects where one person plays something, then someone else plays the same thing trailing directly after them. And what really strikes me about this piece is the pairing of instruments that Kevin Putz does. So, for example, at the beginning of the piece, the violin is kind of sustaining just a nice, what's the word I'm looking for, drone, I guess. And then the marimba enters with these little gestures, and the clarinet picks up the last note the marimba plays each time and sustains that note. So it's like you hear marimba, but then also the last note the marimba plays has this infinite, wind sustain that we can't normally do on our own. And then right after that, the next section of the piece, the clarinet and marimba are trailing each other by an eighth note, playing fast little kind of 16th note, almost pentatonic passages. It's just a lot of very cool effects with that. The piece is in kind of 3 sections plus an introduction. It's kind of introduction, fast, slow, fast. And the end of the piece it's extremely exciting, and it has, again, more of those sort of delay effects where the marimba enters, then an eighth note later the violin, and then an eighth note later the clarinet, all playing very rapid 16th note passages. And if you're interested in checking this piece out, there is just an absolutely phenomenal recording by Jihei Jung with Camerata Pacifica. It's Paul Huang on violin, and I can't remember the clarinetist's name right now. It's something. Oh God, he's a French guy. Or no, sorry, Spanish. Ballister, maybe he's something like that. But he's playing this beautiful Bakun clarinet with wooden key or with gold key work. The clarinet alone is worth looking at, I think. But that performance at Music Academy of the West is just absolutely phenomenal. Highly recommend checking that one out. So, Matt, you said you've played this. Has anyone else in the room played this piece?
No.
No.
I would like to.
Yeah. Matt, what was your experience like playing it?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I actually didn't play with Amy. This is before she and I met.
Gotcha.
It's just you feel it's just the most fun. It's just really fun to play. I'll say.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially there's that one moment where you finally you all go into unison and you go like grooves hard for about 4 measures. About a third of the way through the piece. That's cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opening actually sounds very Appalachian Springy. That first section where we all trail one another.
Yeah. Well, I got to play it twice, and I found you really I'm trying to think of how to say this without feeling condescending. You really discover how good the rhythm is of who you're playing with. And string players in particular, and I'm not saying string players don't have good rhythm, but their perception of rhythm is very different from our perception of rhythm. And playing with a clarinet and a violin reminded me a lot of like hearing about Nancy Zeltzman playing with a violin for so many years and talking about there are so many new things you hear in your own instrument when you compare it to a violin versus a bunch of other percussionists in the room. So I know I really grew a lot as a player from playing this piece. And the clarinet and violin, I mean the clarinet to have to play these delay effects from the marimba and play exactly what you're playing but 1/8 note later is, I know, very challenging. And it also, I don't think, falls nearly as well on clarinet as it does on marimba. So.
Yeah, the ending is actually pretty insane for the clarinetist, especially the final run.
Yeah, yeah. So the part Matt's talking about, it's like kind of jumps by fourths and fifths very rapidly up and down the instrument, which on marimba is not too bad because we can do this with our hands, but on clarinet, it's not friendly, is all I can say. And and the end of the piece is. It's just one of those like incredibly, intensely powerful, emotional, happy, bright things, and I love the Jihei Jung recording. There's just so much commitment to it, and she finishes the piece on one leg. It's awesome. Also, Jihei Jung is one of the greatest marimbas of all time. Just to put that out there.
She finishes with the marimba on one leg, like she plays it in such a way.
Yeah, she just flips it up.
Does a wheelie, hits it so good that it does a wheelie. Hey, Matt and Amy, what's coming up next? I know you guys are on tour right now, but can you tell us and the listeners what they can look out for in the near future?
We are going to finish out our tour. In January, we're playing with the Guerrilla Composers Guild. We're doing some new premieres over there in San Francisco. 5 premieres by members of the group there. And then we're going to be doing in our spring, we're going to be doing hopefully the CD release if the funding is successful. And then we do our spring tour, Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina. And what we do every summer is we do this High School Composers Institute at Boston Conservatory in July. And I'm skipping things.
Yeah.
No, I'm.
Well, I mean, we're performing. I would say also keep your eyes open for just new videos, and our website's actually designed so that our repertoire page, every piece has a link to a recording and program notes. So as we're hoping as young percussionists or any percussionist is looking for new, or clarinetists are looking for new chamber music to play, totally check out our stuff. We're happy to put them in contact with composers for the repertoire. Just a little database.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great resource.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Matt and Amy, and you guys, this is transientcanvas.com. I hope you'll go check it out and visit it. Thanks so much for joining us. It's really cool to catch you while you're on the road and during the busy time. And Anyway, Laurel, Megan, Ben, thanks so much for your segments, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next time, I guess.
Sounds good. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Cool. All right. Later, everybody.
Bye.